In the spring of 1994, the music world was forever changed when news broke that Kurt Cobain, the reluctant voice of Generation X, had taken his own life. The 27 years old frontman of Nirvana left behind not just an unprecedented musical legacy, but also a wife, a daughter, and countless unanswered questions. His story, one of the extraordinary talent paired with profound pain, continues to resonate decades later as both a cautionary tale and a testament to authenticity in an instrument often defined by artifice. The tragic end to Kurt Cobain's story is well documented, but understanding this talented artist with so much potential arrived at such devastating conclusion requires examining the complex circumstances surrounding his life and his final days. This is the tragic life of Kurt Cobain. Kurt Donald Cobain's story begins on February 20, 1967, in the small coastal town of Aberdeen, Washington. Born to waitress Wendy Elizabeth and automotive mechanic Donald Leonard Cobain. Little did anyone know that this sensitive child would eventually change the landscape of music forever before his tragic end at 27. Cobain's family had a musical background. His maternal uncle Chunk Frattenberg starred in a band called the Beachcombers. His aunt Mary Earle played guitar and performed in band throughout Grays Harbor County. And his great-uncle Delbert had a career as an Irish tenor, making an appearance in the 1930 film King of Jazz. Kurt was described as being a happy and excitable, while sensitive and caring child. His talent as an artist was evident from an early age. His bedroom was described as having taken on the appearance of an art studio, where he would accurately draw his favorite characters from films, cartoons such as Aquaman, the creature from the Black Lagoon, and Disney characters. This enthusiasm was encouraged by his grandmother Iris Cobain, who was a professional artist herself. Cobain began developing an interest in music early in his life. According to his Aunt Marie, he began singing at 2-year-old. At age 4, Cobain started playing the piano and singing, writing a song about their trip to a local park. He listened to artists like Ramones, the Electric Orchestra, and would sing songs like Arlo Gutierrez's Motorcycle Song, the Beatles' Hey Jude, Terry Jacks' Season in the Sun, and the theme song The Monkey television show at a young age. When Kurt turned 7, his parents divorced, an event that would leave deep scars. The once outgoing child became withdrawn and defiant. Years later, Kurt would reveal how deeply this affected him. I remember feeling ashamed. I desperately wanted the classic, typical family with a mother and father. I wanted that security. This longing for stability would haunt him throughout his life. Both parents eventually found new partners, creating complicated family dynamics that left Kurt feeling displaced. His father remarried despite promising not to, bringing Kurt into a blended household with a stepmother and step-siblings. Though he initially bonded with his stepmother, Jenny, the birth of his half-brother, Chad, in 1979, changed the family dynamic again. Meanwhile, Kurt's mother began dating an abusive man, exposing Kurt to disturbing scenes of domestic violence that would leave lasting psychological impacts. As Kurt's behavior grew increasingly difficult, his father gained full custody in June 1979. The rebellious child was eventually passed between family members and friends as his father struggled to manage him. During one period, Kurt lived with a born-again Christian family and briefly embraced religion, an experience that would later inspire his songs Lithium. His teenage rebellion continued to escalate, leading to increasingly strained relationships with authority figures. High school brought new challenges. Kurt befriended a gay student, which led to bullying from homophobic classmates who assumed Kurt was also gay. Rather than denying it, Kurt embraced the misperception as a shield, later explaining, "I started being really proud of the fact that I was gay, even though I wasn't. I liked having the identity because people would leave me alone." This early experience shaped Kurt's lifelong stance against homophobia and his comfort with sexual ambiguity. Music became Kurt's true refuge. On his 14th birthday, in 1981, when offered either a bike or a used guitar by his uncle, Kurt chose the guitar. He quickly mastered Led Zeppelin's Stairway to Heaven and began learning other covers before creating his own songs. Though he would later claim the punk band Melvins was his first concert, records show he actually attended a Sammy Hagar and a Quarter Flash show at Seattle Center Coliseum in 1983. The thriving Pacific Northwest punk scene opened new worlds to him, offering both an artistic outlet and a community where his sensitive and rebellion found acceptance. Kurt's home situation continued to deteriorate. After moving back with his mother in Aberdeen during his second year of high school, he eventually dropped out 2 weeks before graduation. When his mother demanded he find employment or leave, Kurt found himself essentially homeless at times, staying with friends and occasionally sneaking into his mother's basement. Though he later claimed to have lived under a bridge over the Wiskha River, an experience that inspired the haunting Nevermind track, Something in the Way, finds friends like Chris Novoselic would clarify that while Kurt spent time there, the tidal muddy banks wouldn't have allowed anyone to truly live there. In late 1986, Kurt found some stability with an apartment and a job at a coastal resort. During this period, he frequently traveled to Olympia for rock concerts, where he met and began dating Tracy Marander. Their relationship, though meaningful, was strained by financial difficulties and Kurt's absences. Tracy worked at an airport cafeteria, often stealing food to support them, while Kurt spent most of his time sleeping late, watching television, and focusing on art projects. Tracy's pressure on Kurt to find employment led to arguments that inspired one of Nirvana's early classics about a girl. Ironically, Tracy didn't learn the song was about her until years after Kurt's death. The pivotal moments in Kurt's musical journey came when he met Chris Novoselic through the Melvins. After persistent efforts to convince Chris to form a band, including a sharing demo tape from his previous project, Facial Matter, Nirvana was born. The early years saw a rotating host of drummers before they settled on a Chad Channing, with whom they recorded their Doubt album, Bleach, for Sub Pop Records in 1989. Kurt eventually became dissatisfied with Channing's drumming style, leading the band to recruit Dave Grohl, completing the classic Nirvana lineup that would change music history. While his music career was developing, Kurt's personal life continued its tumultuous course. After his relationship with Tracy ended, he began dating Toby Vale, an influential punk zinster from the Riot Girl band Bikini Kill. Kurt was so overwhelmed with anxiety about his feelings for Toby that he vomited upon meeting her, an experience that inspired the lyric "Love You So Much It Makes Me Sick" and the song Aneurysm. Their relationship was intellectually stimulating but emotionally complicated. Kurt wanted traditional relationship comfort, which Toby viewed as sexist within punk counterculture. During this time, a seemingly insignificant incident would lead to Nirvana's most iconic song, when Kathleen Hanna, a friend of Toby's, spray-painted "Kurt Smells Like Teen Spirit" on Kurt's apartment wall, referring to a deodorant brand Toby wore. Kurt misinterpreted it as having a revolutionary significance. This misunderstanding inspired the title of Smells Like Teen Spirit, the song that would catapult Nirvana to unexpected fame. Everything changed with the release of Nevermind in 1991. The album's lead single Smells Like Teen Spirit exploded into the mainstream, popularizing grunge and giving voice to Generation X's disillusionment. Nirvana's success opened doors for other Seattle bands like Pearl Jam, Soundgarden, and Alice in Chains, making alternative rock the dominant genre in American music during the early to mid-1990s. Despite achieving what most musicians only dream of, Kurt found fame deeply uncomfortable. He resented being labeled the spokesman of a generation and felt his artistic vision had been misunderstood by the public. These discomforts would lead the band to challenge their audience with their raw, abrasive third album In Utero in 1993. Amid this whirlwind of unexpected fame, Kurt's personal life took another significant turn when he met Courtney Love. The pair first encountered each other at Portland's Sadie Rican nightclub in January 1990. Though Kurt initially kept his distances despite Courtney's interest, Kurt later admitted, "I was determined to be a bachelor for a few months, but I knew that I liked Courtney so much right away that it was really hard to struggle to stay away from her." Their relationship intensified in late 1991 as they bonded over shared interests and substance use. Around the time of Nirvana's 1992 Saturday Night Live performance, Courtney discovered she was pregnant with Kurt's child. The couple married on February 24, 1992 in Hawaii. Kurt wearing green pajamas because he was too lazy to put on a tux, while Courtney wore a dress once owned by actress Frances Farmer. Their daughter, Frances Bean Cobain, was born on August 18, 1992. Long before Cobain's final days in Seattle, there were indications of struggles that would eventually consume him. According to those close to him, Cobain had been diagnosed with clinical depression as early as high school. Danny Goldberg, former Nirvana manager and later president of Atlantic Records, recalled being involved in trying to get Kurt professional help on numerous occasions. Butch Vig, who produced Nirvana's breakthrough album, Nevermind, observed firsthand the singer's volatile emotional status. "Kurt could just be outgoing and funny and charming," Vic said. And half-hour later, he would just go sit in the corner and be totally moody and uncommunicative. Despite the tremendous success that followed the release of Nevermind in 1991, Cobain struggled with the mantle of fame. His discomfort with the spotlight was compounded by chronic stomach pain that had plagued him for years. Pain he frequently self-medicated with heroin. The dangerous intersection of physical discomfort, emotional distress, and substance abuse created the perfect storm that would eventually claim his life. Cobain's personal life made headlines in August 1992 when a Vanity Fair article alleged that his wife Courtney Love had substance abuses while pregnant with their daughter Frances Bean. Though Love denied the allegation, the couple temporarily lost custody of their newborn daughter for 1 month. After a lengthy battle with Children's Services in Los Angeles, where they were living at the time, they regained custody for Frances Bean. In September 1992, Cobain tragically admitted to Los Angeles Times that he had dabbled in heroin and detoxed twice that year, a calculated move, according to insiders, to appease Children's Services. In subsequent interviews, he never acknowledged substance abuse after he and Love had detoxed before Frances Bean's birth, though evidence would later suggest otherwise. The spring of 1993 brought positive news when, on March 23, Children's Services ended its supervision of the Cobain's parenting following of a family court ruling in Los Angeles. However, just 6 weeks later on May 2, the fragile peace was shattered when Cobain returned to their Seattle home and the Sandpoint area shaking, flushed, and dazzled. Love called 911. As Cobain's mother and sister looked on, Love injected her husband with buprenorphine, an illegal drug used to counteract heroin overdoses. Love informed police that such incidents has occurred before. The situation deteriorated further on June 4 when the police were again called to the Cobain household. According to Love, they had been arguing about firearms in the house, though a source later reported that Cobain had told them that fight was over his substance abuse. Cobain was booked for domestic assault and spent 3 hours in jail. 3 firearms found in the home were confiscated. Cobain retrieved the firearms a few months later, only to have them confiscated again during another domestic dispute in March 1994. Despite the chaos in his personal life, Cobain's professional trajectory continued its meteoric rise. On September 14, 1993, Nirvana released In Utero their follow-up to the culture-shifting Nevermind. Though Cobain had vowed not to go on any more long tours unless he could manage his chronic stomach pain, he detoxed and embarked on an extended U.S. tour. On January 8, 1994, Nirvana performed what would become their final American show at the Seattle Center Arena. In the weeks that followed, Cobain made an uncharacteristic decision that surprised many. He authorized Geffen Records to make modifications to In Utero to ensure that distribution through chains like Kmart and Walmart, which he had previously rejected. As January came to close, Nirvana, minus guitarist Pat Smear, who remained in Los Angeles, spent 3 days in the studio before departing for Europe on February 2. The tour began in Lisbon, Portugal on February 5. The band traveled by bus. Cobain and Smear on one vehicle, drummer Dave Grohl and bassist Chris Novoselic in another. According to road manager Alex MacLeod, the separate buses were a matter of luxury, not animosity. Approximately 10 to 12 days into the European tour, as the band made their way through France, Cobain began losing his voice. A throat spray purchased in Paris temporarily alleviated his discomfort. After performances in several French and Italian cities, including Rome, Nirvana played in Ljubljana in the former Yugoslavia on February 27. 2 days later, they performed what would be their final show at Terminal 1 in Munich, Germany. Cobain lost his voice halfway through the performance and consulted an ear, nose, and throat specialist the following day. Cobain was told to take 2 to 4 weeks rest, MacLeod said. He was given spray and medicine for his lungs because he was diagnosed as having severe laryngitis and bronchitis. According to MacLeod, the specialist advised Cobain, "You shouldn't be singing the way you're singing. You have to take at least 2 months off and learn to sing properly." Cobain's response was characteristically defiant, "F that." The band postponed 2 more German shows, in Munich and Offenbach, until April 12 and 13. Novoselic flew back to the Seattle over home repairs. Grohl remained in Germany to film a video for the movie Backbeat. Cobain and Smear headed Rome. The band had completed 15 shows with another 23 scheduled. On March 3, 1994, Cobain checked into Rome's luxurious 5-star Excelsior Hotel. The same day, in a London hotel room, Love was being interviewed by a writer for British magazine Select. The writer observed Love taking Rohypnol, a tranquilizer manufactured by Roche, which also makes Valium. Pharmacists describe the drug as a treatment for severe anxiety and alcohol withdrawal. It's also used as an alternative methadone during substance withdrawal, though Gold maintained Nirvana's management company denied withdrawal was an issue for either Cobain or Love. "Look, I know this is a controlled substance," Love acknowledged during the interview. "I got it from my doctor. It's like Valium. According to Gold Mountain Love, Frances Bean and their nanny Callie joined Cobain in the room following afternoon. That evening, Cobain sent bellboy to fill Ruffino prescription and uncharacteristically ordered 2 bottles of champagne from room service. Unusual behaviors for someone who, according friends, to never drunk. At 6:30 in the morning, Love found Cobain unconscious, initially portrayed as an accident. It was later revealed that approximately 50 pills were found in Cobain's stomach. Each Ruffino pill must be unwrapped individually from tinfoil packaging, suggesting deliberate consumption rather than accidental overdose. A note was discovered at the scene, though Gold Mountain maintained it wasn't a genuine self-unaliving attempt. Cobain was rushed to Rome Umberto Polyclinic Hospital for 5 hours of emergency treatment before being transferred to the American hospital outside of city. He awoke from his coma 20 hours later, immediately scribbling his first request, "Get these tubes out of my nose." 3 days later, he was discharged. His doctor, Osvaldo Galeta, reported that the singer had suffered no permanent damage. "He's not going to get away from me that easily," Love later remarked. "I'll follow him through hell." The couple returned to Seattle following the Rome incident. "I saw Kurt the day he got back from Rome," Carlson recalled. "He was really upset about all the attention it got in the media." Carlson didn't notice anything unusual about Cobain's health or behavior, though like many Cobain friends, he regretted that neither Cobain or anyone close to him had revealed that Rome had been an unaliving attempt. His friends admitted knowing that he was going through a really tough time, but not the full extent of it. On March 18, 1994, a domestic dispute escalated dangerously. After police arrived at the scene, summoned by Love, she informed them that Cobain had locked himself in a room with a .38 caliber revolver and threatened to end himself. Officers confiscated that gun along with a bottle of unidentified pills in Cobain's possessions. Though Cobain later denied any actual intention of ending his life, the police report described the incident as a volatile situation with the threat of ending his life. No arrests were made, and Cobain left the residence afterward. 4 days later, on March 22, Cobain and Love took a taxi from their home in Seattle's Madrona neighborhood to American Dream used car lot near downtown. According to taxi driver Leon Hassan, the couple argued throughout the journey. At the lot, they continued their dispute over a Lexus they had purchased on January 2, which Cobain had returned 2 days later. Love wanted a luxury vehicle, but Cobain preferred something less conspicuous. Lot owner Joe Kenny noted that Love appeared unstable and dropped several pills while walking toward a bathroom. By late March, Cobain's family members, bandmates, and management company had begun consulting with intervention specialists about addressing his escalating substance using psychological issues. Stephen Chatoff, executive director of Anacapa by the Sea, a behavioral health center for addiction and psychological disorders in Port Hueneme, California, was among those contacted. Chatoff began interviewing friends, family members, and business associates to prepare for a comprehensive intervention. According to Chatoff, someone tipped off Cobain, forcing the cancellation of the planned intervention. Gold Mountain claimed they found another intervention counselor and politely declined Chatoff's services with a small lie. Meanwhile, Roddy Bottum, keyboardist for Faith No More and longtime friend of both Cobain and Love, flew from San Francisco to Seattle to support Cobain. Though Nirvana bassist Chris Novoselic attempted his own separate intervention with Cobain, the most intensive confrontation occurred on March 25. That afternoon, approximately 10 people, including bandmates and longtime friends, gathered at Cobain's Lake Washington Boulevard home with a new intervention counselor. During the 5-hour session, Love threatened to leave Cobain, while Samir and Novoselic warned they would dissolve the band if he didn't enter rehabilitation. Initially, resistant to acknowledging his substance abuse problem or self-destructive behavior, Cobain eventually relented and agreed to enter a detox program in Los Angeles later that day. Afterward, he and Samir retreated to the basement to rehearse new material. However, at the Seattle airport, Cobain changed his mind and refused to board the flight. Love had hoped they would enter rehab together, but instead found herself on a plane with Billig headed for Los Angeles. Love later expressed regret at leaving Cobain alone. After stopping in San Francisco, Billig and Love continued to Los Angeles, where Love checked into a $500 per night suite at the Peninsula Hotel in Beverly Hills on the morning of March 26 and began an outpatient detoxification program. Cobain remained in Seattle for 5 more days before finally agreeing to seek treatment in Los Angeles on March 30. Before leaving, he visited Dylan Carlson's condominium in Seattle's Lake City area to request firearms, claiming he needed protection from trespassers on his Madrona property. He seemed normal. We'd been talking, Carlson, who served as best man at Cobain and Love's wedding, recounted. The two visited Stan's gun shop, where they purchased a 6-pound Remington Model 1120 gauge shotgun and ammunition for approximately $300 paid for in cash by Cobain. He was going out to LA, Carlson recalled. It seemed kind of weird that he was buying a shotgun before was leaving, so I offered to hold on until he got back. Cobain, however, insisted on keeping the weapon. Police believe that he brought it home and concealed in a closet. Novoselic reportedly drove Cobain to the airport in Los Angeles. Samir and a Gold Mountain employee met Cobain and transported him to the Exodus Recovery Center at Daniel Freeman Marina Hospital in Marina del Rey. Cobain had previously spent 4 difficult days detoxing at Exodus in 1992, but had left before completing treatment. Despite his opposition to the plan, Chatoff spoke with Cobain by phone several times before his departure for Los Angeles. Cobain spent 2 days at the 20-bed clinic where he spoke with several psychologists, none of whom considered him a danger to himself. Though Frances Bean and her nanny visited him, Love never did. On April 1, Cobain called Love at the Peninsula. He said, "Courtney, no matter what happens, I want you to know that you made a really good record." She later recalled, "I said, well, what do you mean?" And he said, "Just remember, no matter what, I love you." This would be their final conversation. According to Joe Mama, a longtime friend of the couple who was the last to visit Cobain at Exodus, he mentioned while he expected him to look disheveled and depressed, Cobain looked great. An hour after this visit, Cobain jumped the fence, actually scaling a 6-foot-plus brick wall surrounding the center's patio. Though Exodus is a low-security facility from which Cobain could have simply walked out, he chose a more dramatic exit. At 7:25 p.m. on April 1, Cobain told clinic staff he was stepping outside for a cigarette and scaled the wall. Most of Cobain's friends, business associates in Los Angeles were attending a concert by another Gold Mountain client, the Breeders, unaware of his escape. "After Kurt left, I was on the phone with Courtney all the time," Joe Mama recalled. "She was really freaked out, so we drove around looking him at all places he might have gone. She was really scared from the beginning. I guess she could tell." Cobain was already en route to Seattle, arriving on a Delta flight 5.5 hours after his escape. By the time Love canceled his Seafirst Bank credit card and hired private investigator Tom Grant to locate him the following day, it was too late. According to police, canceling the credit card actually complicated the search, as if Seafirst only recorded the type of business and transaction amount for attempted charges on canceled cabs, not the specific location. Love reportedly also hired a second private investigator to monitor the home of Cobain's female substance dealer, a woman Love was allegedly jealous of. Police believe Cobain wandered aimlessly around Seattle during his final days. Neighbors spotted him in a park near his home, appearing ill and wearing an incredulously heavy jacket despite the weather. Cobain reportedly spent time with substance-using acquaintances injecting substances so excessively that they eventually asked him to leave, fearing he would overdose in their presence. He also likely visited his second home in Carnation, Washington, where investigators found a sleeping bag next to a hand-drawn picture of the sun with the words "Cheer Up" written beneath it in black ink, and an ashtray containing cigarette butts of two different brands, one Cobain's, the other unidentified. On Sunday, April 3rd, someone, possibly Cobain, attempted multiple charges on his credit card, ranging from $1,100 to $5,000, apparently trying to obtain cash. The following day, 2 more charge attempts were made for flowers worth $86. That same day, Cobain's mother, Wendy O'Connor, filed a missing person report telling police her son might be in a bad mental state and suggesting they check a specific 3-story brick building in a Capitol Hill known for substance using activity. The final act. Sometime on or before the afternoon of April 5, Cobain secluded himself in the greenhouse above his garage, securing the French doors by propping a stool against them. Evidence suggests he removed his hunter's cap, which he typically wore to avoid recognition, and accessed his substance stash stored in a cigar box. He composed a 1-page note in red ink. The top portion was written in a small handwriting without direct reference to ending his life, leading some to speculate it had been written in advance. The second half featured much larger writing with explicit mention of intention to end his life. Handwriting experts later confirmed both sections were written by Cobain. Addressing Love, Francis Bean, friends and fans, Cobain described an overwhelming emptiness he felt inside and expressed hope that his daughter's life would differ from his own. I haven't felt the excitement of listening to as well as creating music, along with really writing something for too many years, Cobain wrote, adding that, when we're backstage and the lights go out and the manic roar of the crowd goes out, it doesn't affect me the way in which it did to Freddie Mercury. I've tried everything that is in my power to appreciate it, and I do. God, believe me, I do. But it's not enough. I appreciate the fact that I and we have affected and entertained a lot of people. I must be one of those narcissists who only appreciate things when they're alone. I'm too sensitive. I need to be slightly numbed in order to regain the enthusiasm I had as a child. On our last 3 tours, I've had a much better appreciation of all the people I've known personally and as fans of our music. I love and feel for people too much, I guess. Thank you all from the pit of my burning, nauseous stomach from your letters and concern during the last years. I'm too much of an erratic, moody person, and I don't have the passion anymore. So remember, it's better to burn out than to fade away. Cobain placed his wallet on the floor, opened his Washington driver's license, which friends believe was intended to help police identify him. According to Love's letter description to MTV, Cobain positioned a chair near the window, sat down, injected more substances, pressed the barrel of 20 gauge shotgun to his head, and pulled the trigger. Though the county medical examiner determined Cobain died on the afternoon of April 5, someone attempted to charge $1,517.56 cash advance on his credit card the following morning. The attempt was made either by phone or in person without the physical card. In a cruel twist of fate, Love's private investigator, Tom Grant, didn't arrive in Seattle until the next day, April 6. I was working with Grant, Carlson said, and the day we were going to Carnation to look for him, we found out he had already passed. Carlson and Grant, a former deputy sheriff, checked Cobain's Madrona residence twice but failed to search the greenhouse where his body lay. DeWitt departed for Los Angeles on the afternoon of April 7, still unaware of the body nearby. Police never entered the property before the discovery, limiting their investigation to questioning workers outside the house about Cobain's whereabouts. On April 8, shortly before 9 a.m., electrician Gary Smith discovered Cobain's body while installing a security system in the house. Though police, a private investigation firm, and friends had been searching for Cobain, his body had been lying there for 2.5 days. According to the medical examiner report, high concentration of heroin and traces of Valium were found in his bloodstream. His identity could only be confirmed through fingerprints. That same day in Los Angeles, Love, who had been admitted to Exodus Recovery Center after an incident the previous day involving prescription medication, checked out upon learning of her husband's passing. On April 10, approximately 5,000 fans gathered in a park near Seattle Space Needle to honor Cobain. Love addressed the crowd through a recorded message reading excerpts from Cobain's notes, interspersed with her emotional responses to the confessions and doubts expressed by her sad little sensitive and underappreciative man. We all should have let him has his numbness, she sobbed. We should have let him have the thing that made him feel better. Hours after this candlelight vigil, Seattle experienced its first possible Cobain-related passing when 28-year-old Daniel Caspar took his own life with a single bullet after returning from the memorial. Tragically, Cobain's death triggered similar incidents worldwide. In Australia, a teenager ended her life in apparent tribute to Cobain, while in southern Turkey, a 16-year-old fan locked herself in a room, played Nirvana music at high volume, and shot herself in the head. Friends reported she had been deeply depressed since learning of Cobain's death. That same evening, Cobain's family held a private memorial service at the Seattle Unity Church near the Seattle Center. With no casket present, Cobain's body remained with medical examiner before later cremation. The Reverend Stephen Talls began by telling approximately 150 invited guests, "A person ending their own life is no different than having our finger in a vice. The pain becomes so great that you can't bear it any longer." Novoselic delivered a brief eulogy. "We remember Kurt for what he was caring, generous, and sweet. Let's keep the music with us. We'll always have it forever." Carlson read verses from Buddhist poets. Love, depressed in black, recited passages from the Book of Job and some of Cobain's favorite poems from Arthur Rimbaud's Illuminations. She shared anecdotes about Cobain's childhood and read portion of his note not included in her recorded message for the public vigil, including his haunting words, "I have a daughter who reminds me too much of myself." After the service concluded, Love made her way to the Seattle Center where the public vigil was ending. Fans were burning flannel shirts, demanding Nirvana music, and challenging police who unsuccessfully attempted to keep them out of public fountain. Love moved almost unnoticed through the crowd, mourners clutching her husband's note. She later reappeared with Cobain's old clothes and possessions, which she distributed to fans. She described herself to bystanders as angry and emotionally messed up. In the aftermath, neither Grohl nor Novoselic immediately spoke publicly about their bandmates' passing, though they joined with Cobain's family and Gold Mountain to establish a scholarship fund for Aberdeen, Washington high school students with artistic promise regardless of academic performance. Children's services departments in both Seattle and Los Angeles confirmed that they had no caseworkers assigned to Francis Bean. Though Cobain had drafted a will, it remained unsigned and therefore invalid at his passing. As a result, Love and Francis Bean became the sole heirs to his estate, which included assets exceeding $1.2 million against debts of less than $740,000. In a final tragic coda to the story, on June 15, Christine Pfaff, bassist for Love's band Hole, died on apparent substance overdose while preparing to move from Seattle to Minneapolis. The following morning, Paul Erickson, bassist for Minneapolis band Hammerhead, who had spent the night at Pfaff's house, discovered her slumped over the side of the bus stop. For Courtney, it was another coffin to carry. She fled to New York, surfacing in interviews equal parts snarl and sorrow, insisting she would finish promoting Hole's album Lives Through This, because Kurt would haunt me if I let the record die. When Rolling Stone asked how she managed to step on stage after burying her husband, she looked the reporter dead in the eye. Because every night I scream my lungs out. I feel a little less like imploding. Audiences did too. The shows became collective exorcism. Fans mouthing along to Violet as if song might cauterize a hole torn in the dickhead. Meanwhile, Seattle police closed the Cobain file. They had the note, the toxicology, the shotgun cause shut. Yet, tips kept arriving weekly, a bartender swearing he had seen Kurt on April 6, a caller claiming Courtney bribed musician to silence, a photograph of the greenhouse door supposedly ajar after detectives left. 20 years later, the department would develop for undeveloped film rolls from the scene, images showing Kurt's wrist still tagged with him rehab bracelets and a box of shells beside his Converse, only to reaffirm the original ruling. Tom Grant refused to let it rest. He complied. Timelines released his tapped calls with Courtney and toured college auditorism, presenting what he called the inconsistencies. His main points: the morphine level, the disappearance of shotgun shell, the absence of fingerprints, and Courtney's alleged attempts to amend Kurt's will. He never claimed a smoking gun, just a lingering odor of something off. The more mainstream media ignored him. The louder underground designs amplified his questions until "Who Killed Kurt Cobain?" became less a query than a brand stamped on a bootleg VHS tapes and late-night radio shows. Yet, amid the energy, layer simpler, darker truths, a man who wrote "I'm too sensitive" in his final letter, a father terrified his daughter would inherit his storm, an addict whose tolerance danced a fatal tango with despair. Addiction is a thief that leaves fingerprints on nothing but the people who loved its victim. When all the court dockets and message boards fall silent, the simplest explanation often stands, rattling in the doorway, wearing no disguise at all. Years later, Cobain remains an enigmatic figure, whose brief, brilliant career and a tortured personal life continues to fascinate and inspire. As a lone voice standing against bullies and bigots a quarter centuries ago, his authenticity and unwillingness to compromise his artistic vision established a legacy that transcends music itself. The tragedy of his passing at age 27, the same age of which Hendrix, Joplin, Morrison, and Jones died, only reinforces the fragility of genius and the devastating impact of untreated mental illness and addiction. For those who knew him best, the question still remains. Could more have been done? Were the signs missed? Opportunities lost? Or was Kurt Cobain, as Danny Goldenberg suggested, a walking time bomb, destined for self-destruction despite the best efforts of those who loved him? These questions, like haunting melodies and raw lyrics he left behind, have no simple answers. Only the enduring reminder that beneath the fame and acclaim stood a complex, troubled human being who, in his own words, loved and felt for people too much. Thank you for watching and see you in the next one.